Hey, what's up? What's up? It's your girl Erica, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Monday. I hope your week has gotten off to a great start. Today I am here to do my weekly review of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Normally, I would try to finish my review on Sundays. However, I had a pretty busy weekend, so I am here this Monday morning trying to get my review out. Again, we all know that this is season 10 of Love and Marriage Huntsville, and this was episode 8, and the episode was called Humpsville, Alabama. Now, I do have my notes as usual. Like I said, this episode, it was okay. We got some meat because of the whole Ken and Latricia thing. However, this wasn't a lot of the major players, I would say, weren't in this episode. It was sort of like the supporting cast, if you will, with this particular episode. I don't want to give them that title, but I would just say that some of the main people that we normally see in the episodes, they weren't really on there. So I'll just say that. So let's get into it. The opening scene, the show opens up with Martell. He's at his investment property. Of course, he's shown us that before. He already said a few episodes back that he's going to let Ariane and the kids move there. Ariana, of course, they call her Ariana's aka Coleslaw, but Martell, in Martell's world, this is his girl. This is his, his boo thing, whatever he wants to call her. This is the lady that he's dating at this particular time. Martell said he was, actually he was just kind of sort of going around the house with a tape measure, trying to make sure that he measured everything properly for the furniture and everything. So Chris arrives at the house. Now, of course, Martell and Chris Fletcher have been friends over some time. I would say probably several years. We were actually introduced to Nell and Chris Fletcher through Mel and Martell, who was sort of kind of counseling them through some of their marital issues. So they've been knowing Chris and Nell for some time. Chris comes to the house. Chris, hey, what are you doing here? I know you're not trying to sell it. What's going on? Martell informs Chris that he actually wants to move Ariane in. Now, let's be clear. I'm sure that Chris already knew that because Martell and Chris are friends. They've been friends for a good while. So, they probably just playing it up for the show, but Chris probably knew that anyway. So anyway, Martell tells Chris, hey, I'm moving Ariane in. And so Chris was saying, well, are you moving here with her? And Martell says, no, I'm just going to move her in. I would like for us to wait until we get married. Well, we already know that I've said it. I don't know how other people feel about it, and you can tell me how you feel about it. Just drop down in the comments and let me know. I don't think that Martell wants to marry Ariane. I think he will if he feels like he's going to be left out. If it comes down to maybe him being put off the show because he's not married or something like that, or if Mel were to get engaged, I really believe that Martell would go ahead and marry Ariane. But I really don't believe that his heart is in it. I think it's still his way of controlling the situation. So this, with him moving Ariane into this house and stuff like that, it looks like he's really being the good guy, when in actuality, he still just has that way of controlling Ariane and sort of controlling their entire relationship and that whole, the couple dynamic, so to speak. Chris kind of teased Martell about it. He said, hey, like if it doesn't work out, what are you going to do? And so Martell said, well, she's still the mother of my child, so I'm going to look out for her. So Chris was like, oh, here we go. You started hanging around Ken. You've been hanging around Ken too long. So what are you, good guy number 2? Well, we know that Martell ain't no good guy, but Chris kind of said that to Martell, and they kind of joked around about it. But their biggest conversation was the conversation about Martell and Marsau. And so, Chris just told, Martell straight up. He said, hey, you guys act like two itches when we're in a group setting. You guys are going at it. You're constantly going at it. Every time we get together, you guys, just can't seem to get on the same page or on one accord. So Martell went into detail about how he and Marsau were friends, but he doesn't feel as if Marsau has been that great of a friend to him. Martell told Chris straight up, the same way that Marsau doesn't want me to talk about his family, well, and talk about his wife. Well, Ariana is my girl, and I don't want anyone to say anything about her. And he said that straight up. And I mean, even though you may not like it, you can't do anything but respect what he says. I know we don't like the situation. We know how this whole situation with Ariane came about. So we're not actually supporting the action or what was done. But if Martell doesn't want anyone to say anything about her, then hey, if they don't want anything said to them, well, they can't say anything about Ariane. So that's how I feel about it. I'm not a Martell Hope fan at all. I don't like what he's done over the years. I'm still hearing some things that he's doing, but I do understand. I know sometimes people do things in a joking manner. I do feel like in this particular situation, if you are someone's friend, you do have to kind of pull back. I know Marsau does things for the camera. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying that Martell was right in the things that he said about Marsau and Latricia and all of those things. But I will say that, you can't be an eye for an eye, but at the same time, if you are friends with someone, you do have to pull back. And Chris was saying he understood, and he said you and Marsau need to speak, and you guys need to get together and kind of resolve this, because it's sort of draining to the rest of the group if we have to be around you guys all the time and you're constantly arguing or going at it. He said, but you guys need to talk without the rest of us. And that's what they did at the end of the show, but we'll get to that a little later. But I will say, with Martell and Marsau, their friendship, I don't know if it will ever be the same. It probably won't. I will say that the only reason why it won't be the same is because Martell has now exposed Marsau, and Marsau is just not going to get past that, because even though Marsau has a good way of backtracking, and maybe he has Latricia not believing that he's cheating or whatever the case may be, the rumors are still out there, and people are now definitely looking at Marsau a little differently, if they hadn't already, because a lot of people had already believed long before now that Marsau was cheating. But if they hadn't been looking at him, their relationship won't be the same, because now the other people who weren't looking at Marsau like that are definitely saying, yeah, Marsau's a cheater. So that's where we are with that. So we move on. The next scene is with Ken. Ken's friend Will comes to Ken and Latricia's house. As we know, Will is sort of being incorporated. We're seeing him a lot more on the show. He's hanging out with the guys, and then he's also having the one-on-one scenes with Ken. So Ken told, he told Will he's thinking about, giving, Trish the deuces. He's thinking about leaving and just moving on altogether. He said that initially, they've been having a lot of issues, but he said that one of the issues that triggered him recently, he said that he was doing a podcast. Ken probably has some sort of like workout podcast where he and some of the guys, including Will, they sort of get together and work out. He said that during the podcast, I don't know if it's filmed at their home or at the gym where he and Latricia, they actually bought a gym. So I don't know if it was there or somewhere at the house. But anyway, Ken and Will and another guy were actually working out. They were sort of filming. Latricia happened to walk through. She didn't say anything. She didn't speak to anyone. She just sort of came through. Maybe she wasn't sure that they were filming, or she knew that. She came in there for whatever reason, and she sort of waltzed right back out. Ken didn't like that. I guess Ken felt like he was dismissed in some sort of way. I think that Ken felt as if, maybe she was ignoring him, even disrespecting him in front of his friends and in front of, like a podcast. Well, let's dive into that a little bit more. We know that, they are on the show Love and Marriage Huntsville. They're on their own network. If Latricia is within, the vicinity of Ken and he's filming, of course, because they're a couple and because we know that they are together, if Latricia is around, of course, naturally, we would assume that Latricia would say hello. If she's far in the distance, upstairs or something like that, no. But if she's right there in the vicinity, we would assume that Latricia would say, hey guys, or go on about her business. And we also know too that men are very big on respect. And I think Ken Ken felt a little embarrassed that she sort of came in and just left back out. So I can kind of see where Ken is coming from that. But I will say that this is just a small part or a little pebble in the grand scheme of things. I think that they've been having issues far too long. Now, guys, tell me this. How long have Ken and Latricia been together? Because I'm not sure. I know that they've been together for a few years, long enough for them to purchase a home together. And I don't think it's been like just a year or anything like that. I think that they have been together for a while. But please let me know, because I would like to know. I've been trying to kind of ponder in my mind and go back and think about it. Like, how long have they really been together? But if you remember, guys, just drop down, like I said, in the comments and let me know, because I would love to know how long they've been together. But anyway, Ken was saying that just things are piling up. He said after that incident with them in the gym, it led to a number of other arguments. Like I said, that was just a small pebble or just a small fraction of what they've really been going through. Ken said, he was in the military, and I didn't even know he was in the military, but he said, in the military, they were taught to process things a certain way. He said he's now processing things and moving forward with his life and thinking about a future that doesn't include Latricia. Am I surprised about that? No, absolutely not. I said it about 2 or 3 episodes ago in my review. I said, Ken is now on the OWN network. He's probably traveling. He's probably becoming a little more visible. He's probably being recognized a little bit more. I'm sure women are approaching him. They're flirting with him. They're sending him DMs. He's also probably been reading the messages that people are saying, hey, you can do better. And maybe he's starting to even, get with the program and believe that he can do better than Latricia too. He told Will that Trisha is a good woman, but he said he's tired of being, he said, I've been a husband to someone, or I've treated Trisha like a wife, although she's been married to someone else. Now let's unpack that. That is bad. That's bad on both parts, because we know the history. Latricia is married to Marquez. Marquez moved to Atlanta, Georgia. He was not in his children's life. He wasn't in communication with Latricia. He just sort of moved on with his life. Latricia was there in Huntsville raising their 2 kids, and in comes Ken. I'm not sure if Latricia dated someone else prior to Ken, but we just know of Ken. We do know that when people separate, as time goes on, they do eventually start dating someone else. Moving someone in or purchasing a home with them while they're still married, that's definitely a little sketchy, because you still have unfinished business on one hand, and then on the other you're trying to create or make a new life on another end. That doesn't normally work for a man or for a woman. So I fault Trisha for not handling her business and sort of fully divorcing Marquez. And then I also fault Ken, because Ken, men sort of, men are very skeptical. This is 2025, people. Men are very skeptical about getting involved with women, that have children, or, consider to have women to have a lot of baggage. And for me, I'm trying to think, okay, Ken, well, you saw that Trisha had 2 children, and he loves the children. We're not even questioning that. He has stepped in to be like a father figure to them. So he loves the kids, but the other emotional baggage that Trisha has, I'm surprised that Ken allowed himself to attach himself to her in that way, because men tend to pull back or shy away from women who have a lot of emotional baggage. But he went in, he just dove straight in head first, not realizing that it would come back to bite him. And now he's saying he's fed up, he's tired, he's thinking, he's already spoken to a real estate agent, he's tired, he's ready to move on. He said if Trisha doesn't get it together, he is out the door, period. And he has that right, and she needs to let him go if she's not willing to sort of do the work for herself, and to also, like I said, complete her divorce. Trisha can do the work, but she also needs to complete the divorce with Marquez. So that was sort of the end of that. We will see what comes of that, because I'm thinking that they're almost at the end of the first part of this season. So we move on. I'm sorry. Marsau and his daughter Macy, they have a little daddy-daughter date, and it was really cute. It was really cute. Marsau took Macy to get her nails done, or they got pedicures. Macy seems to be like about 15 now. I know Marsau Jr. is getting ready to go to college, and then there's Macy. So Macy has to be between like 15 or getting ready to turn 16 years old. And they had a cute little daddy-daughter date, and I thought it was really, really good. I can see the friendly banter between them. I can see she has that personality like Marsau, but she also has a little bit of Miss Wanda in her because she was going back and forth with Marsau. And I always say this about any reality show that I watch. Oftentimes these shows begin and the children are small, they're babies, or they're very, very young. And then we watch these shows over the years and the children start to grow up. And it's just very endearing and very nice to see how the children grow up and become these, these young adult, or these, these little young people who are now, teenagers. They're driving, they're going off to college, and they're getting ready to become their own people in the world. So it's very, very nice to see. So of course they were just having their conversations. Marsau asked her, how did she rate him as a parent? She said between 6 and 8. She said, you used to be my favorite. She said, you and mom were kind of like right there together. She said, but you used to be my favorite, but mom is my favorite. And he said, how do you rate mom? She said, a 10 out of 10. She said, mom does everything for us. She said, if it were like a house, mom is the foundation. She keeps everything going. She does everything for us. And she really gave her mom, Tisha, all the props, and it was very nice. It was very sweet because you could tell she was very, very sincere. And that's why, Marsau, you have to be careful about what you're doing in these streets too, in those Huntsville streets or anywhere else, because Macy is at an age where it can get back to her, and whatever you do to her mom, it affects her as well. So I hope that Marsau knows that. He seems to be very close with his children. He loves his girls. I could tell he loves Macy, but at the same time, Marsau, you have to be very, very careful, because how you treat her mom will affect your relationship with her going forward, especially as she gets older. When you're young, we hold our parents, we love our parents, they can do no wrong. But as we mature and we become older, we see our parents too for their flaws, for their personality and character flaws, and we see them for who they are as well. So Marsau, remember that Macy is watching. But I did like they played a game called Never Have I Ever. We've heard of that game. Normally it's adults play that game. But Marsau, they were drinking like Coke or Pepsi or something like that, like a soda. And he said, have you ever hugged a guy? And she drank her soda. And he said, well, have you ever kissed a guy? And he was trying to probe and pry and to see how far Macy had gone. And that's what a father should do. A dad should know what his daughter is doing, because, and he told her, he said, look, if you ever get in trouble, if you ever do something that, for whatever reason, you may be afraid to come to me. He said, but don't ever be afraid to come to me. I'm here for you. I may not like it. I may not approve of everything, but I want you to know that I have your back. And I thought that was like A1. I thought that was perfect, because daughters need to hear that, especially when they become teenagers. You're going through different changes physically, emotionally, mentally. You could be influenced by your friends. You want to fit in. You're trying to just find yourself. And it's important for a father to let a daughter know that no matter what, I have your back. You're going to experience things. We all know as humans, at some point in your life, the rug will be snatched from under your feet. But it's good to know that you do have support. And it was good to hear Marsau tell Macy that he has her back no matter what. I thought that was absolutely beautiful, and I do believe that Marsau means that. So we move on. Destiny finally has she has a little lunch date with Trish and Latricia and her other friend Sharon. As we've seen, Sharon is one of Latricia's best friends. We've seen her in most of the scenes, at Latricia's home with Marquez. So they sit down. Destiny first apologized for not coming to Latricia's party. She told her that she had been really, really busy and that she had a gift for her, as well as the daughter Zaria. So I'm not sure if it was Zaria's birthday or whatever was going on. Well, anyway, they just sort of, started having girl talk. And Latricia mentioned that her and Ken were on a break. excuse me, she did mention that, her and Ken was, they weren't seeing eye to eye, they weren't getting along. Destiny seemed to be genuinely shocked. She says that she does know Latricia has had conversations with Destiny before. So Sharon interjected and said she really believes that Ken does not feel validated. And we know that that can happen in a relationship. She said that, and that can go for both men and women, whatever kind of relationship it is, there are times where you may not feel validated. And one person can feel that way, and it can cause them to sort of maybe lash out or to withdraw, or however it is that they communicate. It can cause that person not to actually be themselves. Latricia said that she doesn't like Ken's aggression. Destiny said that she doesn't like that part of Ken, but she does know that Ken really, really loves Latricia, and he takes really, really good care of her. That's her perception of it. They were talking. Sharon even said again that she feels like Latricia's kids tend to handle, or they communicate the way she does. So Latricia said that, of course, we know that Ken bought their son, or Latricia's son, a car. And because of their arguments, Latricia said that Xavier came and slammed the keys down on the countertop in the kitchen. And Latricia said that Ken does remind them a lot of the things he's done, and that he, always threatens to take it away. Well, Ken said sort of the opposite. Ken was saying that, Latricia will say, he'll say, I'm leaving, and Latricia will say, go get out. And then she will say, well, you're responsible for this, or you're supposed to be doing this, and you're supposed to be paying for that. So they're both, it's like they're telling their sides of the story. Somewhere within all of that is the truth. But when she said that, about him threatening, and saying what he does, well, let me say this. I think when you do something for a person, you should not remind them of what you do, but at the same time, you're human. And there is a possibility that when you get angry, you will recall things that you've done. I know people will say, well, that's not love, because if you really love someone, you will do it for them, and love, it won't hold a record of it. But at the same time, too, like I said, when you're angry and when you're acting out of your frustration, those things may come up. So yeah, Kim may go there with her and say, hey, I'm doing this for you, I'm doing that for the kids, and this is how you treat me. So he's not feeling appreciated. Obviously, he's not feeling validated or feeling like he's really, respected in this relationship. So yeah, maybe he is lashing out and saying, hey, after I do all of this, and this is how you treat me. But Latricia was saying she does have a problem. Destiny asked her what her biggest problem with Ken was. She did say the anger is the issue. And so Destiny said, you are carrying the anger, and you're carrying the emotion from your last relationship or your marriage from Marquez into this relationship, and it's not going to get you anywhere. And so Latricia was saying, oh my God, now you're making me feel bad. But Latricia, I've said that from day one. Latricia has some type of communication issue. She doesn't express herself. We don't see her when the cameras are down, but you can just tell Latricia doesn't even know how to sometimes get a thought out of her head. She doesn't even know how to put her thoughts into words. So yes, she does need help with that. She does need some type of therapy, and she does need some sort of healing, because if not, she's just going to spew that out on everyone. And that's what Destiny was trying to tell her. So at that scene, I don't think there was any resolution, but at the same time, I think Destiny and her friend Sharon made her think, okay, yeah, partly it is you. We can talk about Ken all day long, but Latricia, you have some work to do. So the final scene of the show was Martell and Marsau. Not a lot came out of that for me. If you can see my notes, guys, I have it here. I have Martell on one side, Marsau on the other. And I was trying to write down what they were saying. I couldn't really get anything out of it, because to me, it's just two people. This is what I said. I said, Martell wants Marsau to just move on, and Marsau just wants to be right. And I was bored with it. They're going back and forth about the friendship, how long they've been friends. You know, Martell said, I have been a friend to you, you haven't been a friend to me. Marsau is saying, there was a time when you were a friend to me, but you're no longer that friend, and I'm not looking for an apology from you because you're going to revert back to the same ways or the same behavior. Martell is saying, let's just move on altogether. Martell is not backing down from what he said. He is sort of acknowledging, he's still not apologizing, but he's just acknowledging and saying, okay, yeah, I shouldn't have done that with the interview with the other lady. He's not saying you didn't do it. He's not going back and saying, no, you're not a cheater. But he's just saying, I acknowledge that I should not have done that. Martell is also saying that Marsau is a big liar. Marsau kept going rambling on and on and on, like Marsau probably wanted to be an attorney himself. He probably just didn't want to go to school that long. But he's always another one, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. He's always trying to paint this picture, fighting to be right, fighting. And I'm tired of it too. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not Team Martell. I'm not Team Marsau. I think both of them are wrong, and I'm not going to back away from that. I see certain instances with Martell, I see certain instances with Marsau where they both can be right, and I see instances where both of them are wrong. We're not getting anywhere with this friendship. I think we're just going to have to look at it for what it is. If they come together and they have, you know, they film a scene and they're cool for that scene, cool. But then we may go to the next scene and they could be arguing again, especially if certain things are mentioned. I don't think that Martell will mention it anymore. I think that Marsau will probably be the one to keep dragging it on, because now Marsau wants Martell to look like this horrible person. We know who Martell is. We know who Martell was to Mel. But now Marsau is just trying to, it's like the pal on, like, oh yeah, remember guys, this is who Martell is. We know who Martell is. What we're trying to figure out, Marsau, is who are you? Because obviously with all of these things being said, although we have no proof of it, there is something to be said when this guy is exposing these things and saying these things. And I know that it's true because, like I said, Maurice is not backing away from Martell in any way. Marsau and Maurice are blood brothers. Maurice wants Martell to be quiet because he knows that Martell is telling the truth. So he's trying to make peace, and he wants to maintain the friendship with Martell so that Martell doesn't tell his secrets. Marsau is just the opposite. No, I'm going to prove you wrong. You have no proof, and this, that, and the other, and I just want to be right. And so they're fighting. And it's becoming another situation like Mel and Tisha, or Mel and some of these other ladies on the show, where they're just going back and forth without any resolution. Something needs to be done because we're tired of it. There will be no resolution to it. Martell, from this point on going forward, just shut up about it. You know the truth. And Marsau, I think you just need to go on. And I don't know if you need to make some confessions to Letitia, or you need to sort of change how you're doing things. But brother, man, if you are doing anything, trust and believe. The streets are talking and the word is out about you. And at some point, something will come out. So that was the episode, guys. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, leave me a comment. What did you think about this episode? Like I said, to me, the most important thing from this episode was the whole Ken and Latricia thing. Do you think Ken and Latricia will call it quits for good? You know, do you think that Ken has a point? Whose side are you on? Are you Team Ken or Team Latricia? Let me know what you think. And have a great day and enjoy your week. I am going to be doing, if some of you watch The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, I will be reviewing that, so you can look for that in the next couple of days. But other than that, I wish you well. Like I said, have a happy, productive week, and I will see you next time. Bye.